Yes, what to speak of your chorus, mridanga players, kartal players, nice team, kirtan team. Here we are. You've heard about it. And now we're here, the Janardana temple, one of the three very special deities that Madhvacharya personally received and installed and had worshipped very nicely until today. You saw inside very nicely being worshipped. Very strict, high standards of deity worship was one of the hallmarks of I'm doing something wrong. I'm okay. Okay. One of the hallmarks of Madhvacharya. We'll hear later the exchange that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had with the head sannyasi at the Sri Krishna Mat when he visited Udupi. They had some nice exchange. One of the things that he said that was most complimentary was the emphasis that the followers of Madhvacharya have in the form of the Lord. And of course, the form of the Lord is all spiritual, whether it's in the deity form or otherwise, because the deity form is all spiritual. And that's another topic. But significant emphasis on the form of the Lord, including the deity form of the Lord, and that meant proper standards, because it's the form of the Lord. The proper standards of worshiping the Lord in his transcendental form. So here's one of them, the transcendental form of Janardana. Please don't sit right there because you have to have a path for people to get through. You could sit in front. Very good. Thank you. Thank you. So for about 20 minutes or so, the mood is going to change a bit because we're going to make reference to acharyas that we're more familiar with, like Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur and Jiva Goswami and Rupa Goswami and their teachings in relation to the name Janardana. Janardana. What's the meaning of Janardana? So that's what we're going to be looking at, but specifically even the part of Janardana that's the Ardhana portion of Janardana. So our acharyas have made elaborate commentary, which we're going to just follow in their footsteps, so you can think of our wonderful acharyas for at least a half an hour in our Gaudiya line. So there's 5 principal meanings found in different portions of their writings. We'll make reference to those sections of their writings. But killing or destroying or annihilating is one of the meanings of Ardhana, or distressing or afflicting or tormenting. Specifically, they make reference to Krishna's Vrindavan Leela. And asking, this is with some reference to the Sudama Leela, Sudama Brahman, Krishna speaking to Sudama Brahman, asking Sudama Brahman, what have you brought for me? And then the Lord reciprocates after asking that question. Then begging or requesting, and finally causing pain or trouble. It's similar to, but different from the other ones. So we're going to go through these meanings of Janardana, or the meanings of Ardana, portion of Janardana, one by one. The destroyer of wicked people. This one we can understand directly from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 1, where Krishna says, Arjuna says, "O Janardana, although these men, their hearts overtaken by greed, see no fault in killing one's family or quarreling with friends, why should we, who can see the crime in destroying a family, engage in these acts of sin?" Verse from Bhagavad Gita. Now, a little remark. These translations are purposely from Bhanu Swami's translation of Bhagavad Gita for the simple reason that they're shorter. And they're not as esoteric or flowery or poetic, but it's conveying the meaning. So now, Baladev Vidyabhusan asks the question. He's the principal commentator that Srila Prabhupada drew from when making his Bhagavad Gita as it is commentary. Baladev asks the question in his commentary, why does Arjuna address Krishna as Janardana? And his response to that question, Arjuna wants Krishna, who descends to relieve the earth of its burden, to kill the Kauravas, as the Supreme Lord cannot suffer the sin of killing them. So he's asking Krishna, please do it. Thus, Janardana. So then another question he asks, why is the Supreme Lord Krishna absolved from the sin of killing people? Because killing people is a sin. This is exploring the meaning of Ardana. And so he supplies the answer. Why sin doesn't affect Krishna? Prabhupada writes in his Bhagavad Gita purport, 4:14, as there are constitutional laws in the material world stating that the king can do no wrong, or that the king is not subject to the state laws, similarly the Lord, although he is the creator of this material world, is not affected by the activities of the material world. So why is Arjuna asking Janardana to do the killing? Or why is he absolved from sin if he does the killing? Because he's above the law. He makes the law, and the king is not subject to the law that he makes. He then goes on defining acts of sin. So one definition is an act that takes us away from Krishna. Whatever takes us away from Krishna. That means everyone in this material world is looking away from Krishna. Bahir mukha. Bahir is away. Looking away from Krishna. So here we are. We wouldn't come here if we didn't look away from Krishna. Say it the other way. If you look to Krishna, you go to Krishna. So every one of us, there may be some disembodied, perfected souls somewhere in this audience, but the rest of us, we're in this category of having looked away from Krishna for happiness, and that's why we come into this world and get an appropriate body according to our desire and according to our karma. So that's a very simple definition of sin. But for Krishna, Krishna has no desire other than away from Krishna. So sin accrues to somebody who has another purpose. That's a purpose within matter for enjoyment. Is a classic illustration. On the left side is the spiritual world. And then surrounding the spiritual world is the cloud of the material energy. And then there's the living entity turning his back to Krishna, Bahir Mukha, saying no to Krishna. And then he enters into the material atmosphere. To do what? To enjoy separately from Krishna. That's every one of us. So that's a root cause of suffering, is ignoring Krishna, or ignorance is the root cause of suffering. So since Krishna doesn't yearn for anything from matter, he's aloof from matter, so his actions don't accrue sin. Very logical. And it's true, besides it's logical. Here's a little simple example. A ruler may condemn someone to capital punishment. For that, there's no sin. But for murder, there's sin. So both are, one is killing, another is killing. One is sin, another is not sin. A simple example. Here's a nice verse. Again, what the attempt here is to go to our acharyas and sit at the feet of the more familiar acharyas and hear from our acharyas about anything. In this case, the meaning of ardana. So from Canto 10, Chapter 88, Lord Hari has no connection with the material modes. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the all-seeing, eternal witness who is transcendental to material nature. One who worships him becomes similarly freed from the material modes. So that was one example of this first teaching, that Janardana destroys wicked people. Ardana brings destruction. So one might ask, some people ask, it looks like Krishna is partial, because some are protected and some are destroyed. Isn't that partiality? Sounds like partiality. In fact, not only that, he says so in Bhagavad Gita. What does he say in Bhagavad Gita? Let's say the verse together. Samoham sarva bhuteshu na me dveshosti na priyaha ye bhajanti tamam muktya mayi te teshu chapyaham. So there, he's not partial. I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I'm equal to all, but I'm partial. Whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I'm a friend to him. Partiality, right? Sounds like. How's he equal and partial at the same time? Sounds like double talk, doesn't it? So here's our acharyas giving the answer. This partiality is not partiality or apparent partiality. While he's equal to everyone, he especially loves those who love him. There's the answer. Yayatam mam prapadyante tam sadaiva bhajamyaham. So Krishna is equal to everyone according to their bhajami, according to how they have regard for him. He reciprocates. He's not partial. Those who stick their tongue out at him and say, I don't believe that you exist. I'm an atheist. So there. Okay. It's going to bring suffering. Please don't make that mistake. I don't care. So Krishna cares, but he doesn't interfere with their free will as they have regard for him. And then there's others that have loving regard for him, and he reciprocates. It's quite natural. Prabhupada's example, this is just, again, this is a little interlude from hearing all of the teachings of Madhvacharya and the disciples of Madhvacharya and their teachings about Madhvacharya's teachings. This is just a little break from all of that. Prabhupada, supposing Mother and father have a number of children. Sometimes it happens. A number of children. They have affection for all their children. And, not but, and from amongst those many children, one amongst the many children is particularly affectionate to their father and mother. So they show affection to that one that shows affection to them. And it's not partiality. It's not you pat me and I pat you. It's a natural exchange. So that Krishna feels like this is quite natural. Yayatamam prapadyante. He doesn't interfere with our free will. And if we have affection, he reciprocates with affection. And somebody sticks their tongue out at him. I shouldn't say that. Someone has disregard for him. Okay. You're my enemy. Okay. I'll be your enemy. No problem. As you wish. I see you as my friend, my dearmost friend. Very well. I'll be your dearmost friend. No problem. It's not partiality. Our acharyas give the example of a kalpavriksha tree. Look at that kalpavriksha tree, loaded with big fruits, not just one kind. And whatever one desires from a kalpavriksha tree, that's what comes. So is the kalpavriksha tree at fault because it supplies what people desire? And supposedly they don't want any fruit from the kalpavriksha tree. They want to find another tree and make their own desires fulfilled other than through a kalpavriksha tree. Is it a fault of the kalpavriksha tree? No. According to the devotion, Krishna shows friendship, enmity, or neutrality. Example, Ambarish Maharaj and Durvasa Muni. Now, Durvasa Muni is a very elevated person, highly elevated person, not at all an ordinary person. Did Vishnu show partiality for Ambarish and adversity or enviousness towards Durvasa? Absolutely not. Lord Vishnu provided the means to get relief from the Lord Sudarshan Chakra, saying to Durvasa, I don't have any independence from my devotee Ambarish. He's controlled me. I'm not independent. You have to go to him. Whatever he says, that goes, because I'm not independent. He's independent. That's a fundamental teaching of Madhvacharya and all Vaishnavas. There's one independent, but that independent Lord submits himself as if dependent upon those who are his dependents. That's love. So he went to Ambarish. It submitted to Ambarish. What did Ambarish do? Ambarish not only forgave him, but beyond that, Ambarish said to the Supreme Lord and his Sudarshan Chakra, if I've achieved any merit through my many austerities, then I transfer all of that merit to this aggressor who tried to kill me. And sure enough, all of his merit went to Durvasa Muni, and Durvasa Muni understood the greatness of this Vaishnava. Nice lesson, isn't it? So here's the nice image of Krishna playing with the cowherd boys. And here's one of the cowherd boys climbing on the back of Krishna. He's the supreme, independent, and he's having his cowherd boys climb on his back. Like the kalpavriksha tree. It gives fruits in a neutral way to those who want the fruits. Those who approach for shelter, kalpavriksha tree gives. Similarly, Krishna, the independent Supreme Lord, places himself, we heard it this morning, he places himself dependent upon his devotee and gives himself to his devotee. Of course, according to quality. those who are his surrendered souls, who take Krishna as their shelter. He is dependent upon that love and subordinates himself to that love. So now, more katha from our acharyas. What is it about devotees that draws Krishna's special favor amongst his devotees? So he likes all devotees because they like him. What really draws his special favor amongst his devotees? The commentary says, it appears that Krishna's highly favored Vidura and Bhishma, even more than he favored the Pandavas. Why is it? The answer is supplied after the question is raised. Krishna was pleased with them not only because of the service that they did, the service attitude that they did, but they served the devotees. Both Bhishma and Vidura, in their own way, they served the Pandavas. They gave protection to the Pandavas, especially in situations where it appeared that they were helpless. Of course, they're not helpless because they had Krishna's protection. But in service to the Pandavas, both Bhishma and Vidura protected them. And in that sense, even more than the Pandavas, it appears that Krishna was more inclined to Vidura and Bhishma. So no, practically what does that mean for any one of us? Because that's a nice katha. It's a nice katha. Practically, how does that apply to us? We're limited. We're not only limited, we're tiny. Not only tiny, we're insignificant. So what can we do? Answer, whatever Krishna enables you to do, that's what you can do. You can't do something that Krishna doesn't enable you to do. So what do you do? When there's a situation that looks like it's beyond my scope to do. Depends on who you are and depends on your relationship with Krishna. But if you rely upon Krishna, then that which you otherwise couldn't do, you can do. We're going to hear shortly about disciples of Madhvacharya who did things that they never did before, like super duper things that they never did before. Why? Because Madhvacharya empowered to do super duper things. Well, I'll just disclose. There was a band of dacoits 3 times in the course of Madhva's travels to Badrinath. Very dangerous, going through jungles. It didn't have highways, etc. Highways are also dangerous, but different kind of danger. And 3 times they were attacked by bandits, robbers with weapons. And one time, they had weapons and they were going to attack Madhvacharya. All of a sudden, one of his very gentle, soft, kind sannyas disciples picked up a weapon and started whacking like a sword and smashed the robbers and smashed the robbers and smashed the robbers. And they had never seen him with a stick in his hand before. Like, where did he learn this? So they asked him when the robbers were all beaten and chased away. We never saw you do anything like that before. Did you go to karate school or something? He said, him. He inspired me. He gifted me with the power to do what I've never done before for protecting the Vaishnavas. Thus, displaying how dear he was to Ramanuja, to Madhvacharya. And through the agency of Madhvacharya, he was empowered. So how does that apply to us? Gosh. Or other words could be used besides gosh. What's the challenge that we have to present Krishna consciousness in the dark age of Kali? Mission impossible, right? So let's check out and just become peaceful and go somewhere and be peaceful. That's not our practice. Who are we? We're not only tiny, or not only insignificant, we're practically nothing, speck. But we're supposed to do this mission impossible on behalf of our founder Acharya. I'll just share something with you. It's tangential, but it's related. Recently, there was all around ISKCON, I'm sure wherever you're from, you also observed Bhadra Purnima. So the champion of Bhadra Purnima was and is Vaisheshika Prabhu. So I visited his temple, not his temple, the temple that he's in charge of, the ISV temple, ISKCON Silicon Valley temple. And he reminded me, Bhadra Purnima is coming. What's your plan, Maharaj, to increase distribution of Srimad Bhagavatam for Bhadra Purnima? So I said, I'll make a plan. And there were already plans in place, but so after Bhadra Purnima, I sent him a little report. I was like, to Captain Vaisheshika Prabhu, here's Private Romapad Swami saluting to the captain, here's my report. And I gave him, places where I have direct involvement with book distribution, and specifically the Bhadra Purnima, places where it's, some places it's just people, it's not disciple or a president or something. And the results were astounding. I mean, I was surprised when I got the numbers back. I was surprised that some of them were so low, but some of them weren't so low. And so I sent him this little report. Captain Vaisheshika Prabhu, here's my report. And he was so appreciative, but who am I? I'm this little insignificant, so which one of us is significant? Can anybody want to raise their hand and say, count me as a significant one? None of us. So how did it happen? I mean, in that list, there was nearly 1,000 sets of Srimad Bhagavatam. When there wasn't a plan. It was just Vaisheshika Prabhu saying, what's your plan? And so he's a powerful person. But where does he get his power from? Same place we all get some power from. And he does this all over the world. Anyway, back to Janardana. How to please Krishna. Assist the devotees who are pleasing Krishna. If need be, protect the devotees in ways you don't have to have a sword and do what Upendra did and smash everybody with a stick, and so they all ran away. You don't have to do that. If you have that capacity, you can do that. He had never done it before. The Supreme Lord can empower any one of us, as long as our motives are right, our purpose is right. This is what the Lord wants. Put those two things together, you have success. Here's a second meaning of Ardhana. It is taken from Jiva Goswami's Hari Nam Amrita Vyakarana. It's a book Vyakarana is teaching Sanskrit grammar through the medium of Krishna's names. That's what the book is. And when he deals with the name Janardana, here's the reference that he makes. This meaning of Ardhana, a second meaning, is one who desires the surrendered souls in his presence as servitors. Krishna likes. So there's two examples that he refers to. The one on the left, painting, is Lord Ramachandra when he comes back to Ayodhya. Who did he invite to be his confidential servants? Answer. Everybody? Anybody excluded? Nobody excluded. Everybody had an opportunity to serve him. And on the right side, Krishna. in Vrindavan, in the forest of Vrindavan, with the cowherd boys and cows and peacocks and birds and everything, the flowers and the rivers and everything. Everyone had the access to Krishna. Why? It's a quality of him. So he's referred to in both of these cases as Janardana, indicating his quality of desiring the presence of his dear and surrendered servitors. He desires, and so it happens. That's the second meaning of Ardana. Here's a third. Only this is combining two meanings for the Brijbasis. Here's the two meanings. The reference made by Jiva Goswami in his commentary, he writes from this verse from Canto 10, Chapter 19. So this is Krishna's, it's the summer in Vrindavan with the cows and the cowherd boys. That's the scene. So Krishna goes out, chapter 19, he goes out to take care of the cows. At the end of the day, it's time to come back. So this is where this verse comes, chapter 19. Janardana, who pained the forest dwellers, he gives pain to the forest dwellers by leaving them, and who caused the Brijbasis, alternatively, there's the ones back in Braja, this in the town, he caused the Brijbasis to request his return. He entered the village, playing a special tune on his celebrated flute. So there he is, on the left side, the cows and the cowherd boys coming back. On the right side is the villagers who are eagerly calling Krishna to come back. So this is two meanings of an Ardana. Here's the description. In Harinam Vyakarana, this is again Jiva Goswami. When Krishna was returning home from the forest after grazing the cows, Krishna caused pain, or Ardana, to the residents, Jana, of the forest when he decided to return home. Because they didn't want him to leave. They wanted to be with him forever in the forest of Vrindavan. But it was time to go. So he was causing pain to his dear associates. At the same time, being anxious to meet the residents of Braja, Krishna created the desire in them to request, or Ardana, for him to come home soon, in the evening. Double meaning of the Ardana phrase. Janardana means he whom the people of Braja request to see at all times. But that's not possible, because sometimes he's there and sometimes he's not there. And so that means meeting and separation. It's love, has this combination. And when the object of love is the transcendental Janardana, there's love in meeting and love in separation. And wait a while, and the love and separation become love and meeting, and wait a while, the love and meeting becomes separation. And he induces both feelings. That's Ardana. And the people reciprocating with his Ardana have those feelings themselves. That's the loving reciprocation. Isn't it nice? Just explaining, Jiva Goswami explaining in the Sanskrit grammar rules through names of Krishna. Here's number 5. Janardana can mean, or the Ardana portion of Janardana can mean, the refuge of those desiring ultimate benefit. Interesting, here's a Bhagavad Gita verse where it is said, Arjuna is saying to Krishna, if it is your opinion that the intelligence is superior to action, then why do you engage me in this terrible action? Again, this is Bandhu Swami's translation. It's a literal translation. But here he's being referred to, Krishna is being referred to as Janardana. So let's hear from Baladev Vidyabhusan. What's the meaning? Why is he using this term Janardana? Janardana means one who is the object of entreaty for those desiring their ultimate benefit. Supposing you don't know what your ultimate benefit is. Most people don't know. Call to Janardana. Especially if you're Arjuna. Why? No, there's what, but there's also why. And Janardana has the answer. From the Bhagavatam, here's the goddess of fortune Lakshmi in the painting on the right. And the goddess of fortune Lakshmi is examining all living entities in creation to see who is that person who is the ultimate refuge. And she looks here, she looks there, she doesn't find the ultimate refuge, she finds shortcomings. There's virtue, but there's always something, isn't it? There's virtue, but there's always something. So this is a little paraphrase of these 6 verses. 5 verses. While walking among the Gandharvas, Yakshas, Asuras, Siddhas, Charanas, and denizens of heaven, Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, was scrutinizingly examining them, but could not find anyone naturally endowed with all good qualities. She wanted that shelter, which was the ultimate refuge, and she didn't see it anywhere except one place, Narayana. Nothing in this material world is our place of ultimate shelter. They all had qualities, but they also had faults. So she couldn't take shelter of any one of them. She's examining the assembly, thinking in this way, and I'm not going to go through all of it because it's very long, but some had this virtue and this shortcoming. Some had that virtue and that shortcoming. I put in different color. Even a great personality depends on something else. How then can he, great personality, be the supreme controller? And there's some have this, but they don't have that. And she concludes, even if others are well qualified in all respects, they're not devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And therefore, after full deliberation, the goddess of fortune accepted Mukunda as her husband because, although he is independent and not in want of her, he possesses all transcendental qualities, mystic powers, and is therefore most desirable. Isn't that nice commentary? And it's true, besides its nice commentary. It's a practical illustration of this quality of Krishna, that he is the ultimate shelter, the ultimate destination as Janardana. We're almost done. Number 6, he's the giver of happiness to all. Ardana means he gives happiness to the cows, to the gopis, to the gopas, to animals, creepers, everyone. Here's different petals in Goloka Vrindavan. Of course, in the center, the petal is the rasa dance. But he gives happiness to Mother Jasoda, to the cowherd boys, etc., etc., etc. He gives happiness to everyone, Janardana. He protects, similar but different, he protects saintly devotees and removes their suffering. In some cases, he even creates the suffering and then removes the suffering, like the lifting of Govardhan Hill. And he has a double purpose. It was curbing the pride of Indra, but it was also, more importantly than curbing the pride of Indra, was reciprocating with the love and creating a distressful, and then relieving the distressful situation by his own loving dealings, Janardana, one of the characteristics of the Supreme Lord. Now here's a nice verse There's supposed to be some sound connected to it. Let's see if it works. You probably couldn't hear it. That's okay. You want to try it? We'll come back. Go ahead. Plug it in. See what happens. Go ahead. Oh, you don't have a connector? Here, you can use this one. So, Vishnu Sahasranam, we heard already? According to Madhvacharya, each name in Vishnu Sahasranam has at least 100 meanings. So, compliments of Baladev Vidyabhusan, who made an extensive commentary on Vishnu Sahasranam, gives the following explanation. Is it going to work or no? Not working. Okay. Okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. According to Baladev Vidyabhusan, in his commentary on Vishnu Sahasranam, here's his explanation of the meaning of Janardana. Janardana crushes the demons that seek to destroy the world, and he protects the saintly devotees, removing all their sufferings. Now, this is something we heard before, but it's specific to removing the sufferings. It's a meaning that he extracts, one of the 100 meanings of Janardana. Just a few more. He causes pain even to his associates, Janardana. Here's Kaikeyi taking her 2 promises from Dasarath, and when he can't say what those 2 promises are, she says it. Poor Dasarath. And Ram is unmoved. My dear mother, is that all? I'll leave at once. Showing his renunciation, but poor father, not only he looks a mess right now in this instance, he left his body because of that great distress. And here's Bharata providing padukas for Lord Ramachandra with different queens in the background weeping that Ramachandra is not going to come back to the capital. And Bharata is bringing lamentation or karuna to his different devotees. Remember? I'm sure you remember. I'll remind you I'm sure you remember. When we visited the temple of Parshuram, he's the presiding deity of one of the 7 secondary rasas. What is that 7 secondary rasa that he's the presiding deity of? Very good. Very good. Now, Ramachandra is presiding deity of another one of the 7 secondary rasas, karuna. In this case, karuna is translated as lamentation, or sadness, or sorrow. I know some devotees, you may also, but I know one devotee in particular who confided in me, I can't go to the Potomac Temple. Because when I go to the Potomac Temple, they have deities of Sitaram, Lakshman, Hanuman. And when I was growing up, reading Ramayana, I had to stop reading it. Because there was too much sorrow and sorrow. At least the English translation that I read, it's sorrow, the word is used. And how many times, and how many different persons, and how deep and profound with variegatedness is sorrow. So he had to stop reading Ramayana. And whenever he sees deities of Sitaram, Lakshman, Hanuman, he has to walk out. But then, fortunately, Rupa Goswami helped understand what kind of sorrow is that. It's not the worldly sorrow, it's an ecstasy. And Nectar Devotion explains that ecstasy. It's an ecstasy. Not only in Ram's Leela, in Krishna's Leela, the separation of the resident Vrindavan, in particular the gopis, in particular Srimati Radharani. And there's many nice paintings, nice paintings of Radharani's feelings of separation. Many nice paintings of Radharani's feelings of separation. Other gopis trying to console Srimati Radharani in her feelings of separation, and she's inconsolable. Here she's fainted, and they're fanning her and sprinkling water on her and trying to revive her because the feelings of separation from Krishna are just too much to bear. She loses her external consciousness. So why? And the answer is, it's not pain, it's giving joy. Now, for most of us, it doesn't look like joy, it looks like sorrow. But this joy is love and separation. Two more, and we're done. Janardana is the maintainer of people. Ardhana can mean the maintainer. Here's Bhagavad Gita, chapter 1. Oh, Krishna, maintainer of the people. Look at the Sanskrit. What is maintainer of the people in Sanskrit? It's Janardana. Oh, Krishna, Janardana, maintainer of the people. I have heard by disciplic succession that those whose family traditions are destroyed dwell always in hell. So how does Krishna maintain people? I hope you're enjoying hearing different meanings, because Katayantas Shamam Nityam Tushyanti Cha Ramanti Cha, especially hearing directly from our acharyas on these topics. So here's a Bhagavad Gita chapter 9 verse. Those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating in my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. So he's the maintainer in that way. Although the situations may seem to be favorable or unfavorable, good fortune, ill fortune, doesn't matter. What matters? The absorption in Krishna, that's what matters. So whatever matters, whatever is the good or not so good, by material estimation, good or not so good situation, absorption in Krishna. I mean, as I'm speaking, I'm thinking of these two families that just lost a loved one. Whew, that's tough. Both of them, without elaborating, because you might be sorrowful. So I won't expand it. But great misfortune. But I can say the Krishna consciousness of those two families spiked a whole bunch. And what to speak of the destination of the souls of those two families, and by the love and Krishna consciousness that those families carry, the destination is certainly favorable. If they're not with Krishna, it's in a very favorable situation. Very favorable. So there's another, and this is going to be quick and ends very sweet. This is the last explanation from Vaishnava Toshini. What's Vaishnava Toshini? Vaishnava Toshini is a commentary by Sanatana Goswami on the 10th canto Bhagavatam. Now, Sanatana Goswami is a perfect soul, but even the perfect Sanatana Goswami gave his Vaishnava Toshini to Jiva Goswami to look at and see if he made any mistakes, or if there's some editing that was required. Please take that service. So Jiva Goswami, with palms folded to his superior, accepted the service. And not only he accepted the service, but he wrote in commentary on his commentary. That's Jiva Goswami. Though this is taken from Jiva Goswami's commentary on Sanatana Goswami's commentary, on a section from Srimad Bhagavatam where Sudama Brahman visits Krishna after having his arm twisted a little bit by his good wife. With, good intent, because she couldn't stand to see her husband so skinny and emaciated and impoverished. She didn't mind. She had austerity capacity like her husband. She couldn't stand to see her husband looking so skinny. She said, "You have a dear friend. He's just down the road, over there in Dwarka. Please." He didn't want anything, but he didn't want his wife to be in big distress either, so he went thinking, well, in any case, I'll see my dear friend, my beloved friend. So he became joyful, anticipating meeting his beloved friend. And before he left home, it's custom and culture that you take a gift to a great person. He's a Brahmana, Krishna's a Kshatriya, but he's visiting a great person, so he should bring a gift. But they didn't have anything in the house as a gift, anything. And so what to do? So his wife went around to the neighbors and got some little pieces of broken rice, put the pieces of broken rice in a cloth, tied the cloth with some knot at the top, and her husband carried that gift for Krishna, chipped rice, broken chipped rice, for the personality of Godhead, Bhagavan. Nice try. But how did Krishna feel about that? He asked, Janardana, Krishna asked Sudama, "What have you brought me?" Now this is Jiva Goswami's commentary on Vaishnava Toshini. "What have you brought me?" After Sudama returned home from Dwarka, he saw his house filled with opulence. And then he thought, I have always been poor. There was a very nice exchange which I'm skipping over because of time. Certainly the only possible way that such an unfortunate person as myself could become suddenly rich is that Lord Krishna, the supremely opulent chief of the Yadu dynasty, has glanced upon me. After all, my dear friend Krishna, the most exalted of the Dasharhas and the enjoyer of ultimate wealth, noticed that I secretly intended to beg from him. Thus, even though he said nothing about it, when I stood before him, he actually bestowed upon me the most abundant riches, which he had no attraction for, but it's what his wife wanted, or something. In this way, he acted just like a merciful rain cloud. The Lord considers even his greatest benedictions to be insignificant, while he magnifies even a small service rendered to him by his well-wishing devotees. What was that small service? Krishna asked, "What have you brought?" He couldn't say he brought some chipped rice because he saw the opulence of Dwarka. Krishna saw him hiding that little bag behind his back. So Krishna snatched the bag and started eating the rice. And after taking one morsel and another third morsel, Rukmini caught his hand and stopped him out of her love. But Krishna had already eaten some. He had accepted that literally insignificant offering as a gesture of love, which it was. And that gesture of love was reciprocated with, not because he, Sudama, wanted wealth, but he wanted his dear wife to not be in anxiety about his impoverished condition. The Lord is the supremely compassionate reservoir of all transcendental qualities. Life after life, may I serve him with love, friendship, and sympathy. And may I cultivate such firm attachment for him by the precious association of his devotees. Almost done. To a devotee who lacks spiritual insight, sound familiar? The Supreme Lord will not grant the wonderful opulences of this world, kingly power and material assets. Indeed, in his infinite wisdom, the unborn Lord well knows how the intoxication of pride can cause the downfall of the wealthy. That's the image at the bottom. Thus, firmly fixing his determination by means of his spiritual intelligence, Sudama remained absolutely devoted to Krishna, free from attachment, to enjoyment. He enjoyed together with his wife while giving up the sense object. Sounds like double talk, right? He wasn't enjoying as a worldly person enjoys. He was enjoying the loving reciprocation that Krishna extended, not the objects themselves. I mean, it says specifically, he slept on the floor. He lived the same kind of austere life for the rest of his life. Bare floor. He had this opulent palace. He wasn't attached to the opulence. So that's how he enjoyed the loving reciprocation of his beloved master. Similarly, this Ardana is a request, as Krishna requested, Sudama, what have you brought me? So taking that same mood, sometimes the devotees of Krishna ask Krishna to kill Kamsa. Now, he did so in a very interesting way. He told Kamsa, hey, Kamsa, you're such an exalted person. Would you like to know a secret? Everybody likes to know secrets. That eighth child of Devaki, you remember that one? Of course you remembered that one. He's just on the other side of the river Jamuna. Go get him. Protect your backside, Kamsa. Knowing that would inspire, not on the other side of the river Jamuna, but in Vrindavan. He's over there in Vrindavan. Bring him here and kill him. Knowing that Krishna would kill Kamsa. He wanted to hasten the destruction of Kamsa. But he did it in a Narada Muni-like way. So also a desire, we heard, and we'll hear some more. Shortly we're going to hear some more of Madhvacharya's aspiration to receive Krishna, composing some wonderful stotras on his walk towards the sea. We're very near the sea, I'm told. That expectation of meeting Krishna resulted in his meeting Krishna in a deity form. That did just a few of you raise your hand. Did you receive a PDF or a document that explains before Madhvacharya received Udupi Krishna, what's the origin of the Udupi Krishna deity? Did you receive that PDF? No one received it. I could narrate the story, but I'm going to save time and let you read the PDF. Udupi Krishna was being worshipped by one of Krishna's dear wives in Dwarka. Here's a story, a short version. You'll see the PDF when it somehow gets circulated. Devaki requested Krishna, adult Krishna, I didn't have the opportunity to serve you in your childlike form. Mother Yasoda did. Can you exhibit for my loving reciprocation with you your childlike pastimes? Mother Devaki asked that. Krishna smiled and he assumed a childlike form and did his playful leelas. It's described in the PDF, this and that and the other thing. And after exhibiting his childlike leelas, he assumed again his adult feature. Rukmini saw that display of his Krishna's childhood pastimes that were enjoyed with Mother Jasoda. She requested a deity maker to make a deity of those pastimes, and that's the deity. And she personally worshipped this deity of Krishna. One hand is a rope, another hand is a rod, and she worshipped the deity. After some time, Dwarka was going to descend into the sea. Arjuna, knowing that, Arjuna took the deity and hid the deity in a Rukmini Vana, a forest named after her. And then Dwarka sank into the sea, and long duration of time passed, and the deity became covered in clay, or chandan. And that deity covered in chandan became ballast, something that keeps a boat from rocking is ballast in the hull of the ship. And that's the chandan that Madhvacharya requested. But that's the history of the deity that Madhvacharya received. Udupi Krishna, previously worshipped by Rukmini in Dwarka, to commemorate pastimes of Krishna's childhood pastimes that she saw. Isn't it nice? Now, sometimes we have history. Now, what's the source of that? It's one of Madhvacharya's members of his disciplic succession in some writing. It's his writing that narrates that story. You see that in the PDF when you get it. Hopefully you'll get it. Here's the three deities. And one of the deities where we are is the one on the right. And there's the deity of Udupi Krishna, showing in a map where Udupi is. We already saw this map. This is where the Balaram deity is in Malpe, which we're not going to go to because the temple is under renovation. And where we are is this place right here, very close to the sea. So there's a little description of the meanings of the name Janardana here at the Janardana temple. Srila Prabhupada ki. We're not done yet. I'm looking at my watch, and it's 1:35, and we have until 2 o'clock. You ready for some katha on Madhvacharya until 2 o'clock? We're not going to finish, but I'll end at 2 o'clock, and we'll take questions sometime tomorrow when I continue what I don't get to finish. Is that okay? No discussion. If you have a question, write it down. We'll discuss later. Remember, we have a day that's just questions. From experience so far, as soon as I ask for questions, no hands go up. But once the ball starts rolling, then there's lots of questions. So let's see what happens. Pretend that it's question time and you're going to write something down or remember it or something like that. Okay. So yesterday evening, I continued remember the last slide was Madhvacharya he had taken sannyas. How old was he when he took sannyas? 18. And he traveled for another 7 years. What's 18 plus 7? 25. So we're beginning in this narration of where Madhvacharya is now 25. He's returned back to Udupi. And he's contemplating, so this is a little quick summary of what we discussed yesterday evening. He's contemplating what's next. So when he returns to Udupi, he composes, writes, makes a written commentary on Bhagavad Gita called Gita Bhashya, and systematically explaining Bhagavad Gita and its esoteric teachings. Not just, the storyline, but the deeper meanings of Bhagavad Gita. And he's very enthusiastic to go the next step. And the next step is write commentary on Vedanta Sutra or Brahma Sutra. It was known locally at that time and place. So he's looking forward to that. And because both of these will be instruments to help him do his main mission. What's his main mission? Is counteracting the misunderstandings and twisted understandings and wrong understandings of Vyasadev's writings. So he's feeling very inspired to do that writing, but he wants to first go present his Gita Bhashya to Vyasadeva and get confirmation from Vyasadeva that he has made this presentation correctly, or changes if changes are needed. He's looking up to Vyasadeva as his principal guru, although they haven't even met yet. So a decision is made to make a tour to Badrinath. And he gets a small group of disciples to go with him. In the biography of this tour, one principal disciple is like his shadow. Satya Tirtha is expressed over and over again. Very dear to Madhvacharya, and he's with him by his side at all times. So they start the pilgrimage. And as they start the pilgrimage, he did something different than what he did for the past 7 years. Because for 7 years, he went to many, many, many holy places and met with those who had contradictory teachings. And he met with them and discussed, you could say, debated on his Dvaitavad teaching. And in all circumstances was victorious and became something of a celebrity during his youth. He's only 25. So he didn't go to, Varanasi and Prayag and to get the common places along the Ganges. He just continued going north and north and north and north until he reached Badrinath. And when he reached Badrinath, there's no roads, there's no anything. There's no GPS, he just somehow made his way. When he reached the temple, there's Badrinath. The principal deity is the deity of Narayana. Just like one of my godbrothers is named Badri Narayana. And I was thinking this morning, I should invite him to come with me to Badrinath. And Badri Narayana can visit Badri and see Narayana. Maybe he's been there, I don't know. Let's see what happens. So he went to the deity of Narayana and he offered a copy of his Gita Bhashya at the feet of the deity. Submission unto Narayana, who he's glorifying. And then we heard yesterday evening, briefly, he recited the invocation mantra, which said, I'm making this to the best of my ability. And he heard, and some others in the temple room heard, Narayana saying, no, change it. The best of your ability is to understand everything. You haven't expressed everything because people can't understand everything. So you should change that word to read a little of my capacity. So he accepted. And it was edited and changed. And then he went on to explain to his disciples in the temple before the deity, and it was heard by everyone, not some people. Uchatam, uchatam, again and again. Let it be said, let it be said. And you're like, go on. So he took that, it was the deity's affirmation, you've done a good job. Say it again, keep going. So then he went further to the Alaknanda River, which during the particular time that he was there, is so bitter cold, no one took bath in that sacred river because it was too cold. But before the sun came up every day, Madhvacharya, the austere Mukhya Pran, took bath every day in Alaknanda River. Doesn't say what his disciples did, but he did. And he wanted especially to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That was his focus of everything. So while staying at that ashram at the top of Badrinath for 48 days, we heard this yesterday, 48 days, he fasted. He has an appetite that's insatiable. Some of us have appetites. He has Vrikodar appetite. In 48 days, he fasted completely and observed Mona completely. Why? He was preparing himself with the aspiration that he left Udupi was to meet Vyasadeva, but no one can see Vyasadeva. Why you can't see Vyasadeva? Because he doesn't make himself visible to people that are in the modes of nature. So he's in this realm called Uttar Badri, Upper Badri, and only most qualified people can enter. So Madhvacharya was such a qualified person. The biography states after those 48 days, Vyasadeva came before him, invited him, please come see me in my ashram. A personal invitation. So with that personal invitation, he decided to go. His favorite and dearmost disciple, Satyatirtha, wanted to accompany him. So Madhvacharya agreed, but he couldn't keep up because he's Hanuman-like. He could travel distances, and Satyatirtha couldn't keep up with him. It's described at a certain point, he was so far ahead of Satyatirtha, he just waved to him, indicating by gesture, return back to Badri, the particular temple. And the biography says, it was if some force, it's like his finding the deity of Udupi Krishna, just by waving his handkerchief. The ship was freed from the sand dune. So just by waving a gesture of his hand, Satyatirtha had a force like the wind that carried him all the way back. He didn't know his way. He couldn't do leaps and bounds like Madhvacharya could do, but he found himself very quickly, swiftly, back in home base at the temple. And he described to his associates what happened, because no one can keep up with Madhvacharya. So finally, Madhvacharya reaches Uttar Badri, and there's this very lengthy, poetic, elegant description. I'll just read a couple sentences, but it's lengthy and elegant and very poetic. It's like going to Vaikuntha. It's likened specifically, entering Vaikuntha, where all the personalities there were beyond the modes of nature, perfectly liberated soul, perfected souls. It's like, the sign at the gate that says, only perfected souls allowed. Sorry, Charlie. It's perfected souls, and it gives a list of those persons, gives a description of the place. Before he left, because he had been keeping Monavrata, this is important, he wrote what was considered to be like a final will. I'll read because he had Monavrata, so he couldn't speak anything. So here's what he wrote. This is his final will. Madhva shall proceed desirous of seeing the invincible Lord having the form of Vyasa. Whether he will come back here or not, Vedavyas alone will know. May all of you get happiness. And he left. And they wanted to say, don't go, but they didn't say it because they knew his determination, and he left. He made it. The description is there, what the place was like. Amazing description. It says specifically in this biography that Vyasadeva made himself invisible to ordinary people because Kali Yuga had started and there weren't qualified people to be in the company of or to give us association to. But Madhva was such a person. Here's the description. Vyasadeva had a cloth tied around his knees. We saw that painting, the last painting yesterday evening. He had a cloth tied around his knees. Did you notice? And the reason given is to ensure that he was sitting in Yogasana. Lord Brahma had gifted Vedavyasa Kaustubha gem, which he was wearing on his neck. This gem shines like a large number of suns seen together and is symbolic of the victory over the three worlds. The tips of his fingers on his right hand were held in the form of the Gyan Mudra. And his other hand was in another mudra, indicating the destruction of fear, of samsara. Quite a scene. 3 lines formed on his neck, symbolizing his recitation of the 3 Vedas. He was effulgent, and he had red tilak. And when he reached, Madhva reached Vyas, Vyas was dark in color, Madhva was golden in color, and immediately he reached out and embraced him. And the other perfected souls, seeing this, they were awestruck. Who is this person? But they could understand the love between the 2 persons, and so they understood he must be a very special person. And then very quickly they could understand, because they're perfected souls, that both of them, Vyas and Madhva, had appeared in this world to deliver transcendental knowledge, to relieve people of the suffering caused by ignorance. Let's say it again. Suffering has a cause. If you're a Buddhist, suffering is caused by desire. If you're a follower of Vedavyas, or a follower of the Vedas, suffering is caused by ignorance. And how to relieve others of ignorance, not just to get moksha, but to relieve them of suffering, both happen. Moksha is not just relief of suffering, it's a positive happiness. But that positive happiness is covered by ignorance. So knowledge is imperative. Knowledge and devotion is imperative. Very important. Super, super important. Knowledge and devotion is that which relieves all suffering. After some time, Vyas gave teachings on further teachings of transcendental knowledge to Madhvacharya. He confirmed that what he had written in his Gita Bhashya was perfect and ready for distribution and circulation in the world below. He mandated him, now you write Vedanta Sutra, or a Bhashya, a commentary on Brahma Sutra. And then Vyas took him by the hand, and they went to the place where Narayan Rishi, not just in their deity form in Badri, but in Uttar Badri, they are residing. And Narayana spoke. Here's some nice words, and I'm going to end here. Narayana Rishi told Madhva, he gives him a mandate, as Vyasa had already given him the mandate to write the commentary on his Vedanta Sutra. The work which I am telling you to undertake is the work of the Devas, very dear to Vedavyas, gesturing to Vedavyas, because Vyas compiled it. It was his writing, a summary of all the Vedas. And impossible for others to do. The completion of this work, that's his, he's mandating him to write a commentary on Vyasadev's Brahma Sutra or Vedanta Sutra. The completion of this work will be the main achievement of your third incarnation. What's the third incarnation? Vayu became the father of Hanuman, Vayu became the father of Bhishma, and now he's appeared as Madhvacharya. This will be the completion, the perfection of your appearance for the third time. At present, the natural and correct meaning of Vedas and the Smritis is being destroyed. And the true purport, as indicated by the Brahma Sutra itself, is misrepresented and obscured by the commentaries made according to their own wish. Therefore, this is the mandate. The correct tenets have almost been lost for the world. You should quickly write Brahma Sutra Bhasya to reject the bad commentaries and give the correct knowledge and liberation to our devotees. Narayana counting him as one of his devotees. Go quickly, arrange properly the Shruti and Smriti Shastras as composed by Vedavyas correctly. So he's got a double mandate. He went for one purpose, now he's got achieved two purposes. And now it's time for him to return, because he said immediately, quickly. So he's getting ready to go. Before he goes, he receives a second gift from Vedavyas. The second gift is 8 Shalagram Shilas. That during the first or the second visit? The second visit. Okay, so it doesn't get the Shilas yet. So it's time to return. He went from the Uttar Badri to the regular Badri that we're going to visit. It's called Vishala Badri, and there's a Badri Nath temple at that place. The disciples were waiting and waiting and waiting in anxiety, and while there he began the composition, because he was told to do it immediately, of Brahma Sutra Bhasya. By his side was his dear sannyas assistant, Satya Tirtha. Madhvacharya spoke, and Satya Tirtha didn't have a tape recorder. He just had a good memory, and he wrote quickly, and he captured the essence of Madhvacharya's commentary. So he didn't complete everything while still there, but in the course of the journey back, the commentary of Vedanta Sutra or Brahma Sutra had been completed, copies were made, copies were distributed, and he makes his way back to Udupi. He wants to give a copy of his, because he had already provided a Gita Bhashya copy to Achyuta Preksha, and now he wants to give a copy of his Brahma Sutra Bhashya to Achyuta Preksha. So that's the end of our little visit to the Janardana temple. And someone want to make some quick announcements? I want to make one announcement I've been meaning to make and just have a few minutes. I've been informed by our organizers towards the beginning of the yatra, there's a shortfall of funds to meet the expenses of the yatra. Now, in the past, it wasn't a big problem, but because there's sponsorships for meals and stuff. So there's opportunities for people to come forward and assist. Even with that, there'll be a shortfall. And so those of you that are so inspired, you can see our organizers and you can come forward and make some voluntary donation. Now, there was some idea to make a wider appeal, and I don't like the wider appeal idea. It's just the people that are here. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. It's okay. But there's a shortfall. And see what you can do to assist making up for that shortfall by a voluntary donation of some kind that you can do. I suppose you can do even later if you don't have the means now and those kinds of things. So the event organizers, besides Padmanabha, you want to stand up, Padmanabha? There he is.